aside from that, we're gonna do how this entire event began. So it was due to after Fort Mason was closed on May 29th. You see all the different locations at City College. And then Fort Mason is a center that will be closing, and potentially even Civic Center too. We will have Greg Keech discuss what's happening at Civic Center later on. And we also see that Fawnee and Deb are ESL instructors from that campus as well. So because this Fort Mason campus ended up closing, we were baffled by it. Members from CCSF Collective and along with various community members decided that they wanted to fight against the closure by overturning it. And that resulted in this idea of wanting to save Fort Mason, resulted in a Save CCSF Centers coalition forming, because in addressing the closure with Fort Mason, we're also addressing what will happen to Civic Center, what will happen to the Southeast campus, which is right now empty and serves the Bayview community, along with Evans too, because the trades classes that Evans is known for is getting decimated as well. This results in later on the other issues connected to City College. So as we talked about the different campuses, it's also the AFAM department, which has no full-time faculty, no Black department chair representing them. They do not have an associate's degree or certificate, and not nearly enough classes offered as a consequence. Because they don't have no full-time faculty, there's only, I believe, 4 classes being taught this fall semester, and 3 of them are taught by the same teacher. And the Affirmative Action Task Force is tasked with addressing the diverse faculty concerns. And later on, you will see Patricia Nunley, who will be discussing what is happening to the AFAM department and the steps that they're taking in order to ensure there is a full-time faculty member. There's also the Black Student Union, who has no physical space, the AFAM Resource Center, which needs more funding, and they're only listed as a resource center versus they're only listed as a food pantry site versus a resource center. And overall, in discussing what's happening to the AFAM department and then also discussing what's happening to the AFAM Resource Center, it's this overall knowledge that City College really isn't helping the Black community as they should be. We also are discussing the ESL cuts and layoffs. There will actually be a student present at Fort Mason named Holger Daza, who will be talking about his experiences. OLAD is getting decimated. Later on, we will see the various OLAD students being able to speak about their experiences too, because if they already lost 90% of the classes in the spring, and if they lose Fort Mason as well, which house various OLAD classes, that's even further cuts too. Which is an available resource which should not be taken away even more. We will also be discussing the Balboa Reservoir, which is where the MUB parking lot is, and that will be through Madeline Mueller, who's also in this chat. And then lastly, the entire issues, what's connecting everything is perhaps the Board of Trustees mismanaging what's happening at City College too. So I find that it's hard to continue the Zoom or to do this event without first addressing what's happening presently, which is the entire Black Lives Matter movement. And this entire attention to what's been happening for so many years. The Black Student Union at City College, they're trying to see what could be done within their community. So in talking about Black Lives Matter and in talking about CCSF, it's also about Black Student Union, the AFAM Resource Center, and along with all of our other Black students too. And you might ask, so what is being done so far? So the Black Student Union has a list of demands, and I'm actually curious to hear if people are open to sort of unmuting themselves and sharing a demand too. If someone could please read the first demand right here.
Can I say something about that?
Sure.
Hi, it's Wynd Kaufmyn. I'm an engineering instructor at City College. There actually is an interim chair right now who is serving because there needs to be a chair, but he's actually the chair of the Latin American Studies Department, and he would be happy to step down in order for the elected chair to be reinstated, who happens to be an African American woman. And so that's what we're asking for, is that the duly elected chair be reinstated.
Absolutely. So that is one other thing too. Can someone please read the BSU demands as well, starting with number 1? When perhaps since you talked about
Sure.
the department chair.
Sure, because this is actually an issue close to my heart and that I have been
Absolutely.
working on quite closely. 1, fully fund the African American Resource Center. I just want to mention that this includes giving them an adequate space. Right now, they're in a space which doesn't even have windows. The Wi-Fi access is very spotty, and there's no coordinators to, make sure that the program remains vital. Okay, 2, connect our programs. The African American Resource Center. Okay, I just talked about that. AFAM studies. Okay, so there needs to be a certificate developed for that, and for that you need actually faculty to be released for curriculum development, because that's actually a lot of work. I'm actually not sure what UMOJA is. Do you know what that is, Ira?
Yes, it's part of the overall studies program for African American studies. It's another component to it.
Okay. And then the Black Student Union also needs to be given resources and appropriate space.
Yeah.
Okay, 3, I think I mentioned that. To create the African American Studies Associates of Arts degree for transfer. Again, that's going to take some release time for some faculty. So it would need to be funded by the school. And Black studies deserve a living wage. Black students deserve a living wage to attend.
Thank you so much, Wynd, for reading this.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes. So then, other than that, it's also ways that you could plug in. I find that it's best to reach out to them and ask like which ways you could all support. So I have the contact information for Black Student Union, and if you go onto that link tree, which I shared onto the chat, you will be able to find the different ways that you could plug in with the BSU as well. And then also it's this idea that it's not just the news cycle, whereas there's less spotlight being attuned to Black Lives Matter. It's a constant movement where we do have to show solidarity from this point onwards, and as long as there is injustice to Black lives too. And speaking about that, which is more information provided by AFAM Resource Center, and just a moment of silence for all the Black lives affected by racism and police brutality too. And in discussing the Black Lives Matter and the police brutality movement, it's necessary to bring it back to what's happening at City College. And that's with what happened to Alex Nieto and John Monterosa. So I just want to pay special attention to this. And then as we start to go back to the live stream at Fort Mason, just one more thing, which is a land acknowledgement, which is that Ran Ramatouche Ohlone land. And I just want to recognize that, along with being missing murdered Indigenous women who also faced many injustices and slipping through the cracks of what's happening with the justice system, and also police brutality as well. So from this point forward, I do want to move it to Jess, who will be at the Fort Mason location. And we're going to see what's happening there right now. Jess, can you turn on your audio?
I'm saying "were" because as I speak, teachers are moving out of their classrooms. All right, 80%. Now, the idea was that they were going to move the classes, move the program someplace else at another center or centers. There is no way that they're going to move what we know as the biggest kiln in the Bay Area. We have it right here. That kiln was built inside the area. They didn't bring it in from the outside, they built it in. The only way to get it out of there is to disassemble it And we know they're not going to reassemble it. We know that. So that's not really true that they're going to move the program, the sculpture program someplace else. It's just not happening. For those of you who know a little bit about sculpture, there's a process called raccooing. Raccooing can be very unsafe unless it's someplace near water or far away from other buildings. That's why we can have raccooing here, and you can't have it in Chinatown at that center, nor can you have it in the Mission. It's not going to work. It won't be safe. So there goes the raccooing. So when they say we're going to move your program elsewhere, no, it's not going to happen. All right, upstairs on the second floor, there are 6 printing presses, some of which were purchased from the proceeds of art shows that take place at Fort Mason once a year, the holiday show. They made, City College collects 15% of the sales, of the student sales, and they purchased a couple of presses with that money. All right, there are 6 presses, each one of which weighs approximately 1,500 pounds. Now, don't tell me they're going to move 6 presses someplace else and set it up. It's not going to happen. So all I'm saying to you right now is be aware when you hear from a board of, somebody on the board of trustees that don't worry, we're moving the program. All right, now, are they maybe moving some of the drawing classes? Yes. Can they move a watercolor class? Yes. Can they move a sculpture class? No. How about a printing class? No. All right. We have a wonderful art school here. We need to stay here. We can help so many people. Woo! Also housed here 3 classes, OLAD classes, older adults program. It was made very clear by administration that OLAD is not a priority. So you have seniors here that love the classes, that are devoted to the classes, who show up all the time. So you've got the enrollment, and to just say that this is not a priority when we know that the numbers of seniors in California, according to the governor, are going up, and there'll be 8 million more seniors by 2030. That's not that far away. And the Governor Newsom, wants California to be a leader in the area of treating seniors respectfully. It is not respectful to disseminate their program, to tell them that they're not a priority. That's not respectful. I don't think that's what the governor wants. I don't think that's what we want. So that's the other thing. All right. So we're trying very hard to protect OLAD, but right now, 90% of that OLAD program has been cut. 90%. Now, we've all experienced cuts to our different programs, not 90%. So you know for a fact, just from that, we're not wanted. OLAD is not wanted as part of the program. So people, I think, will be speaking to that later. So with that, I want to thank you very much for being here. We are City College. No, right now to our next speaker, who will give you a little bit more information. And that will be, well, we'll start with Peter Warfield.
Hey, Joe, but she's gonna come back.
Thank you very much.
I think so. Oh.
I'm Peter Warfield with a group called a former student at Fort Mason in the older adult program. A former student because they cut 52 out of 58 older adult classes, including both of the art classes that I was taking in the fall and wanted to take in the spring. That's more than 90% of the older adult program at City College, and it leaves only 6 classes in the older adult program, which a year and a half ago had some 76 or 78 classes altogether. We consider that to be really serious age discrimination. And we don't like it, and we don't think it's right. All of this was done on practically no notice. The week before Thanksgiving, the former Chancellor Rocha, sent out a letter saying that there were going to be serious cuts. Altogether, 300 classes were cut from the overall spring program. Again, that's a huge cut, and that's not helping anybody get an education in any category of student. Now, the Chancellor said that cuts were due to low enrollment, that they chose low enrollment classes. Certainly both of the classes that I've attended were over-enrolled, fully enrolled, and the head of the older adult program said that the older adult classes were very well and fully enrolled. They said there was an issue of money. Well, there's some serious questions about their financial information. So, for example, the teachers and the extension program last fall, after the cuts, arranged to have the extension program do the same classes in sculpture and drawing, figure sculpture and figure drawing, as pay classes. And the teachers had all the enrollment and all the checks in hand for full enrollment. And then the word came from above, no. They would not go ahead with extension classes here at Fort Mason. That would basically be the equivalent of previous classes, but were for pay. So where is this business about money? We also, of course, know that the former chancellor wrote to the supervisors, and the supervisors were willing to give millions of dollars so that there could be spring classes full scheduled with no cuts. The chancellor actually wrote a letter saying, no, we don't need the money, we don't want the money, we're not going to use the money if you give it to us. I do want to repeat that my group, Equity for Older Students, can be reached at Equity for Older Students at protonmail.com. Again, Equity for Older Students at protonmail.com. I repeat that because that's something that I usually repeat when I make public comment at trustees' meetings. But they have managed to make minimal transparency at every possible level, as has done the administration. So we heard that the administration, when it cut 300 classes in November, the night before, they call it the Midnight Massacre. The night before registration began, they did not consult deans, they did not consult chairs, and they certainly didn't consult the students. At the Board of Trustees, there is a whole process of disenfranchisement of the public. So for example, for a while with their Zoom meetings, sorry about the mess, the Zoom meetings,
Oh, yeah.
my mention of the email address for Equity for Older Students. They also cut portions of my comments that I had written to them and that were plainly part of my public comment. Their whole public comment process is constantly changing and in many respects illegally sabotaging the public's right and ability to be heard. The law says they're supposed to provide public comment at every agenda item when it comes up. They don't do that. They've now gone to taking public comment at the very beginning, supposedly, of the meetings. Do they have the comments at the beginning of the meeting so as to satisfy the law? Public comment before or during their consideration? No. They approve the minutes without any public comment as item 2 or 3, and then they take public comment on everything at item 4 or 5. They have a whole range of ways of sabotaging the public's ability to comment or even the public's right to comment. In December, at the December meeting, I wrote my name and submitted a speaker card like everybody else. But they actually tried to stop me. You can watch the meeting at which they try and say, well, you already had public comment. I said, no, I wanted public comment on every agenda item, and that includes things on the agenda and things off the agenda. And they eventually, thanks to lots of people in the room, and some of them yelling, let him speak, they let me speak for my 1 minute. So 1 minute each at the December meeting because there were so many people who were outraged by what they were doing. So the Board of Trustees and their selected chancellor are doing things not only that are bad, wrong, and poor policy. There's not a good explanation of what the reasons are. The reasons seem to be full of holes at best. But they're also doing their best in every realm, including their meetings, not to follow the law and not to get people their due with respect to considering what they have to say. So we think that making a noise where possible and where it might do some good is very useful. Marilee already mentioned, get in touch with your supervisors. City College is a real asset for the city that's being destroyed. Not only the older adult program, all the classes with a particular focus on the arts, on English as a second language, and so on. You've heard some of the other cuts. We also think if you get in touch with the mayor and our state representatives, that would be helpful as well, because the state is the primary funder of City College. So I hope that working together, we can all get City College back to the community college that serves everybody and not just a stripped down, reduced version that just barely gets people through college who only need to get a degree or transfer to a four-year institution, but rather does what community colleges were supposed to do, and that is to serve everybody in the community. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Jean Cherie. I am part of Teddy's older adult life modeling class, and just packing it and just crying, and this is really sad. And it is a time when we really need art. All of you should be home making art. But at least we get to see each other for this. So this is really a wonderful opportunity for us to be here. But we need to be creative at this period of time. This is a fantastic place to be creative. We do not need to cut another art opportunity, creative time out of our lives. So
It's good to see all of you here and keep the changes that we want in the community. So bigger and better and be creative. Thank you. Is it working now? Okay, years ago, don't touch it. Okay, years ago, can anyone hear me now? Yes. It's nice to see you all. You're such a wonderful class. You all showed up. It's really wonderful. And, you know, years ago, they had that performing arts building. They passed a bond with the citizens to earmark millions of dollars for the performing arts building. That it was supposed to go out at Ocean Campus. It was a beautiful place for the theater, the arts. I'm sure there would have been a place for the kill. Now, what happened over the years is they must have littered the money away. Where did they put it? It was supposed to build a building. They didn't. Oh my gosh. So it was supposed to be a huge fund. They had plans, they had architecture plans. They could put the art students in, the theater students, and the music students. And I'm sure if somebody would have built that place for the art students, they would have had the kill area. So they should really look into that matter. What happened to the money and why they didn't build that? So I want to bring that up. Hi, I'm Leslie Smith, and I work for City College. Can you hear me now? Okay. So my name is Leslie Smith. I worked for City College for 30 years and fought for good public policy. So I'm here today to read the resolution that we need all of you to call or email the City College Board of Trustees, asking them to rescind their action of 12 o'clock in the morning last month closing Fort Mason campus. So I want to go back to 1879. 1879, the California Constitution put in the Constitution that we cannot have civil liberties and rights without access to education. So we have to stand here and fight to keep the doors open for everyone in San Francisco, not just the select few. The California Education Code, which is the law that governs how community colleges work in California, says that the mission of the California community colleges is to provide educational opportunity and success to the broadest range of our citizens, not a narrow group. It goes on to specifically say opportunity for all qualified Californians, and it specifically says both younger and older. That's the law. We need to follow the law. Furthermore, City College itself, by law, is required to put together an educational master plan. In fact, it cannot collect any money from the state without doing so. So it put together a master plan to cover 2018 to 2025. And it says that the specific overarching goal is to get back to 32,000 full-time student equivalents. Now, I worked here for 30 years. I was in the Office of Governmental Relations. I headed up research, and we served 100,000 San Franciscans for decades because we reached out to every single community to serve and educate and create a solid, educated society in San Francisco. We are now down to 37,000.
Wow.
We have lost nearly two-thirds of our students. Why? Well, closing Fort Mason is going in the opposite direction. The Board of Trustees' own goals say that their top priority is to get
closing Fort Mason. The state pays us to provide education in other sites. They give us money. It's called basic apportionment. To not just have every single class at Ocean Campus. They pay us so that everybody doesn't have to spend hours in their car, hours on the bus, hours commuting when they could actually be in the classroom, learning in their community with all the diversity of all the different neighborhoods. We had more art classes at City College of San Francisco covering every single culture in the world. We had Chinese art history and Chinese American art history. We wanted to talk to all of our students and respect all cultures, and there are no great societies in the world without great art. And we're shutting that all down. We're narrowing the curriculum. I think we're going back to Western art is the only thing that matters. It's wrong. You know, painting isn't the only art form. What happened to metal sculpture? So, they say they want to do this in their own building. Why? And you need to ask them. We've been asking. Peter talked about the process. We need the public pressure to get them to overturn their action. So we know that San Francisco population. Why is the enrollment at City College collapsing? Well, it's because we're shut down sites. We're canceling classes. We're losing the diversity of our curriculum. We're not serving everybody. We're targeting a small group of students. They want them to go full time. Community college students, 85% are working. So they're working poor. You need to work and go to school. You got to stop, go full time. That's the wonderful world. Okay. So we are asking, talk to the Fort Mason administration. They're willing to work with us. The state is currently giving us $354,000 a year to pay the lease. We're off about $50,000. Fort Mason has agreed to close the gap. Why are we closing Fort Mason? Why? So you need to, so we have a resolution. You need to look at it. You need to look at the social media. And we have a handout that gives you the resolution right so you can read it. So you're informed when you make the call, put it in the email. And it says, it's resolved that the Board of Trustees of City College of San Francisco directs the Chancellor to open negotiations immediately to extend the lease. Right. The second thing is that you need to get into a long-term lease, because if you get into a 10-year lease, then you have bond dollars to do the earthquake retrofit. You can take it to Fort Mason and you can commit to it. The state has paid us for Fort Mason the entire time we've been here for 45 years. It's time that we serve the students, stop the shutdown, open the doors. We all need education. Thank you.
Calling Patricia Nunley. Oh, okay. Oh, go ahead.
Hello, I hope some of you know who I am, but if not, I'm Conrad Dutton. I teach and am a student at Fort Mason. I just wrapped up my packing. They initially gave me 15 minutes to pack up, but then eventually decided I could use a little more time to pack up my stuff. I've taught for 10 years or more and have been taking classes for even longer. The amazing thing is, is that this has been here for so long and it has run on its own, and there's been money coming in from left and right, as you heard before. And this covert operation that's happening now is a long history of trying to do what shouldn't be done, which is shutting down Fort Mason. We had this 3 years ago, if you remember. With the same flimsy ideas. Now, of course, they have the pandemic and other crazy stuff going on that takes attention away from what's happening here. And they are truly taking advantage of everything else that's going on to really stick a knife to us and call this place a day. I hope that they recognize that they are not serving the community anymore, that the people that are paying their wages in the administrative body are the people that they are disenfranchising. They are the people that have reared them as infants and are now seniors and older adults that deserve a community of their own to extend their lifelong learning in an environment that is dignified and beautiful, instead of being somehow warehoused off in a corner somewhere in some campus that is willing to take up whatever they can, which of course in this case means none of the stuff we have here will go. The big films for the figurative sculpture, the spaces that we have for the painting and the work we do doesn't exist anywhere else that I am aware of. And of course, for many, that will mean they'll have to commute across the entire city. So, so much disrespect and so much disregard and so much covert operation all in one is hard to believe. And we just have been, we've been paying their wages. We have been enabling the school to exist through our own taxes and the initiatives that we have all said yes to. I do not understand why they're saying no to those that have so long supported them. It's really, it's hard to say all this without getting enraged and upset. I hope we can continue our path. One way or another, we will continue fighting and make something happen. I hope you're all here for whatever's going to be happening next, because it's not going to stop at this point. Yeah.
Hi, everybody. My name is Art Persico. I'm a retired Teamster and current convener of the SF Gray Panthers. Can you all hear me?
Yeah.
I've taken classes right here in silk screening, and I've taken other classes at City College of San Francisco in labor studies. Fred Glass, great teacher. Hope they can bring him back. We should be demanding things. Power doesn't yield without a demand. We're in the Gray Panthers, and we specialize in outrage. And there's a lot to be outraged about right now. Gray Panthers are particular fans of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And this week is the 75th anniversary of the founding of the United Nations in San Francisco. 1945, it happened right here. So we have a special place in UN history, and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights is something that Gray Panthers really pay attention to and would like to see implemented. And it's relevant to City College. There are several clauses in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights that relate to City College and its role in educating and culture for the wider community. Article 27 says, everyone has the right to freely participate. Let's start with Article 19 in chronological order. Everyone has the right of freedom of opinion and expression. This right includes freedom to impart information and ideas through any media and regardless of frontier. Article 26 says, in part, everyone has the right to education. Education shall be equally accessible for all and shall be directed to the full development of the human personality. Article 27 says everyone has the right to freely participate in the cultural life of the community, to enjoy the arts. The San Francisco Gray Panthers, City College of San Francisco, as fulfilling an obligation to us as just people who live in San Francisco under the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Therefore, we want it to be known and make sure that older adults in San Francisco and everybody has access to such programs. To see this very valuable program at Fort Mason for the arts that older adults in San Francisco have enjoyed for 40 years being put under threat is unconscionable. And this campus is unique. Look at it. Look where we are. One of the things that makes Fort Mason exceptional for the arts is to have, it has the largest pottery kiln in the Bay Area. It's so large that it's too large to move. It sends out a lot of heat, and at Fort Mason, it's near the bay, so that it's safe. You can only have raku, which is Japanese pottery making at high heat, in a safe place. You could never do it in Chinatown or in the Mission because the buildings are too close together. The risk of fire would be too great. Another thing that makes Fort Mason campus unique is that you have printing presses and art studios on multiple floors. So seniors can access them. The parking lots nearby, they can carry things into and out of the buildings with elevators. It's important for older adults especially that they have good access. If they moved it, it would be much different. The bottom line, as a lot of people like to refer to, is important as well. And this has been explained earlier, that the older adults have access to fewer classes and it'll prove that we're not a priority if they move these classes from Fort Mason. The administration at City College will lose money by doing this. They will lose the money from the state of California, but they're not moving the classes for older adults by getting out of Fort Mason. They're eliminating them. They've been trying for years to make City College into a STEM college, and the arts are no longer fit into their vision of City College. Let's make City College fit our vision. Let's demand that. So let's do everything we can to save or restore City College in San Francisco, Fort Mason, as a center for art activity for everyone, including older adults. Thank you.
Okay, my name is Steve Zeltzer. I'm with Heat and I'm with Work Week Radio. I've been covering the issue of protection of public education. And it really is scandalous in one of the wealthiest cities in the world with 75 billionaires that they don't have money for keeping our public community college going. That's what they're saying. And they say it's a question of money. That's what they've been arguing. It's not a question of money because they have a lot of developers, they have a lot of high executives that they keep hiring. You know, I remember Rocha said, I came from an earthquake at Northridge and we should have a executive on earthquakes, how to take care of earthquakes. So they hired an executive at probably over $200,000 on how to take care of earthquakes, but they didn't have the money to keep this place going, to stop this destruction of City College. So it's a hypocrisy, it's duplicity, but it really has been going on for many years. It didn't start here. The trusteeship was organized to prevent the construction of the Performing Arts Education Center. They stopped it, even though it was illegal. They should have completed it because we, the people of San Francisco, voted money for it. So they're saying to hell with the people of San Francisco. We have other priorities. So who is really running City College? That's what I would like to know. Who are these people listening to? As Leslie pointed out, they're actually losing money by closing this St. Fort Mason Center. So who are you listening to? Then we have told them the facts, the information about it. They just ignore it. In fact, not one member of the Board of Trustees even asked a question about these financial issues. I mean, can you imagine that? Out of all the Board of Trustees, not one said, well, let's look at the figures. We've been provided some information that we're going to get money to the state to keep this thing going. Why shouldn't we ask? Why don't we do that? Why don't we keep this thing going? The reason is that this is part of the privatization agenda in San Francisco. They want you to go to art class if you can afford $2,000 or $3,000 to go to art classes. That's what they're saying. The privatization of public education is what this is about. They're selling off the campuses to developers. In fact, the city of San Francisco is spending millions of dollars to sell off Avalon, the Balboa Reservoir, and turn it over to Avalon. Now, who voted for that? Who voted to privatize the reservoir, which is needed by working class students so they can go to City College? Who voted to privatize it and build $1 million condos next to City College? Our position has to be public land for the public's use. That's our position. And this treasure, this beautiful treasure that we have here at Fort Mason should not be destroyed. That is a priority, to protect these treasures that have been built up over many decades by the people of San Francisco. They fought to make this thing happen, and they're just voting it away without a thought to the effect on the students. And when we talk, it's corruption, and when we talk about seniors, you know, the number of seniors in San Francisco, we have a high proportion of seniors. They need this. They need this for their health and safety. They need it, and they have a right to go to studies and programs with teachers and to be educated. But what they did is they tried to privatize that. They tried to outsource it to nonprofit centers where non-union teachers would be there. What is that? You know what that is? That is union busting. We have a faculty here that is educated, that is trained, that is certified. They spent their lives developing their skills, and they're going to outsource it to nonprofits where they don't even have any training. Again, it's contempt for the people of San Francisco. It's union busting. So we have some important work to do here. We have to educate the public that this is fraudulent. What they're using as an excuse is a lie. We have to say that it's a lie. You're lying. You're not telling the truth to the public. We have to demand that this privatization stop. The Planning Commission is packed with developers and people who represent the developers. The PUC is packed by developers. They're going to sell the property at Balboa below market value, $11 million. And they're saying, well, they're doing that for working class housing. What about working class students who need City College? The priority of City College is to protect City College. The priority of public land is to protect the public, not developers who have an agenda to profiteer off of privatization of public land, because that's precisely what's going on. So we have to call on the Board of Supervisors to reject the Planning Commission recommendation of the sale of this. We have to get candidates who are going to support the public, who are going to support the demand that we have a right to a great public education that we can afford in San Francisco. And the state of California, including our elected officials, have voted to change the laws for community colleges to punish working class students that can't afford to finish college in 2 years. They changed the funding ratio. Now, a lot of working class students have to work 2 or 3 jobs. How can they afford to finish in 2 years? It's only students with more means, middle class or upper class, who can finish in 2 years. It's not working class students. So they changed the funding formula. So this college and all colleges in California are punished financially unless they finish in 2 years. This is reactionary. It's anti-working class. Young people who don't have any money, and most of them don't, have a right to a public education. Yeah. And when we talk about the millions of people in California unemployed, where are they going to go? What are they going to do? They should be going to college. They should be developing their skills. Young people need a future. Young people are angry. Black working people, black people are angry because they've been disenfranchised. They're stealing their public education. They're stealing their health care. We in California have to protect our public services. This is also racist. They're closing down the ethnic studies program. It's a big fight to even have a professor at Black Studies here at City College. What kind of city is this? What kind of priorities do these people have? Ethnic studies were built by the strike in San Francisco, and now they want to destroy the ethnic studies program. They want to tell people you shouldn't learn about your history. You shouldn't learn about the real struggles in California. I think that's reactionary, it's racist, and we have to put a halt to it. It's outrageous. We have to stand with the community. We have to stand with labor and all working people. We have a right to a public education. We demand it. We have a right to a beautiful future because this is a beautiful country and this is a beautiful campus. Solidarity, we defend our education.
I'm Sue Englander. I'm a history teacher in the social science department. I was laid off this year, but I'm back. And I'm going to teach a little history today. I'm a woman of few words and I jumped the line. Sorry about that. But 2012, when deaccreditation began against City College, we were the flagship campus of the community college system through deaccreditation, and then through Rocha's nasty strangling regime, we have lost 30,000 and more students. So it started in 2012 with the accreditation, and this is where we are now. This is no coincidence. We are being targeted by evildoers who want to take down community college, who want to take down the community college system, who want to privatize education, not just Fort Mason, they want to privatize education. And we have been pushing back for 8 years. I am working my last nerve on this. When I go back to class, and it's going to be online, I'm teaching a history class starting in 1600 with Native America and going to the Civil War. But I'm also going to be teaching about the history of American education, of U.S. education. What has happened, why we fought for it through the 1700s, through the 1800s. And in my women's history class, I'm going to say how we fought for it for women in the 1800s and the 1900s, to let people know that this is a 300-year struggle, and we're not going to stop now. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Jess Wynd, and I'm a City College student, and I'm a proud member of the CCSF Collective. More and more students are speaking up and protesting about things that matter to them, like Black Lives Matter. With the recent loss of Sean Monterosa, it reminds us of the loss of another former CCSF student, Alex Nieto. And it's important for us to all stand together to seek justice for Sean. His sisters are asking for the community's help to ask the Vallejo PD to release the body cam footage and also the dashboard cam footage from that incident. And we want to make sure that we get justice for all our students. No matter if you're a RAM, one point in time, you're always part of the RAM family. As part of a CCSF student, I would like to take this moment to amplify the needs and the demands of our Black Student Union. Earlier today, Patricia Nunley, a faculty member, a part of the Affirmative Action Task Force, has been advocated for a full-time faculty hire for the African American Studies Department. They only have 2 part-time teachers. They don't even have a full-time teacher for that department, which is such a shame. City College has one of the oldest African American Studies department in the nation, and it's because of the protest back in the 1950s that we were able to have that department. As you can see down below, we put the demands for the Black Student Union on poster board, but we also have a link tree link that you can all sign and support the demands of our students. We want a fully funded African American Resource Center. Create an African American Studies Associate of Arts degree for transfer. We want to create a unified space for the African American Resource Center, for the African American Studies Department, for AMUJA, the African American Scholars Program, as well as the Black Student Union. Having a unified space will allow for all the services to work together and for students to build community and get the space that they deserve. They're not even listed on the campus maps at all for Resource Center, and that's unacceptable. Especially in this time where the trustees are talking about equity, we want them to show up about action and doing it now. We don't want to wait until spring of 2021 in order to get a full-time faculty hire for them. That full-time faculty hire should be in the fall, so that the teacher can go and build relationships with students, and students can build their community in order to be heard and in order to get their academic goals achieved. It's important for us to go band together, to follow the student groups, to follow the different advocacy groups, to get involved and to take action now. As a student, I am appointed as the facilities representative, and I'm only one of 2 students in a group of a lot of admin, faculty, and classified staff. and we need your help to amplify the needs of our students and to ask for the accountability from our trustees who promised us the world but has not delivered us anything. The most important thing is please follow our students' accounts at CCSF Collective on Instagram. Get involved. We're trying to educate the community on what issues are happening at City College so then you can make informed decisions in November on who you would like to vote for trustee. I would like to take this moment to introduce the next speaker. He's a great supporter of City College and came to speak to support us in the emergency bridge fund ordinance that unfortunately was vetoed by Mayor London Breed. But I would like to introduce Uncle Damien from Us for Us Bay Area. Thank you so much for coming. Follow at usforus.Bay Area on Instagram.
Thank you so much. First of all, I want to pay homage and respect and thank the organizers of this event and the people for coming out, taking their time to show that they care. My name is Damian Posey. I'm a San Francisco native, born and raised in San Francisco in the Bayview in the Fillmore district. I'm also, I ran myself a CCSF alumni. I don't know how many credits I got, but I know I got an AA somewhere in there. Like that all the classes I've taken. I'm also executive director of an organization called Us for Us, which is focused on community action and supporting great organizations that do great things in the community, such as CCSF. And it's a shame that we're here right now because all that's going on, the last thing we should be talking about is shutting down schools. Am I right?
Yes.
There are some other places, because this is a peaceful, positive protest. We're going to keep it in that vein, but we know that some people are being overpaid and they're underserving the people. We need to get those funds to the people that are serving the people properly. Like you see, my young people walk around. We got hand sanitizers and masks, and that's what we do. We've been to 16, 17 protests, as of recently, and that's not why I started the organization to support peaceful protesters, but that's what's needed right now. So we have to go with what the people need in the time. And what the people need right now in this time is education. Education about racial equality.
Yes.
Education about school disparities. Education about those old adages that's been going on. We're unfortunately working under a system that's outdated, that needs to be reformed. I'm not saying we need to totally defund the police. I haven't taken a position on that, but I do know that some of those funds that they're getting can be allocated to things like this young lady just said with a black student union over there. That's a shame that they're not even on the roster.
Yeah.
Come on now. Right on. I was a new student coming to the school and I wanted to find, my people, hard for me to do. Once you get around your people, you gotta learn about yourself first, and that's what I'm all about. What you need to do. I want to encourage everybody to do their part. Everybody here is doing their part, just holding the space that you're doing because everybody's not going to go to 16, 17 protests. You ought to see me 2 months ago. I was a little bit better. Now I got a protest body now. In shape because I've been working. But that's the space that I've been called to do. Everybody can do this. Maybe your space is making signs. Maybe your space is praying for the people or making food or donating. You always need donations. These masks and hand sanitizer and waters and snacks and foods and stuff that we bring to the people is not free. We get some lovely donations. We appreciate all the donations, the gas and everything. That might be your space. Your space might be to record, like this young lady right here. But find your space and fill it. But everybody has to get active. You have to do something because it may not be at your doorstep right now, but tomorrow, the day after, it could be at your doorstep. We're grateful to see that. It's all about her. You got something you want to say? It's all about you. I don't care.
Thank you, back out
there. I don't mind. I cut all the things. But everybody needs to fill their space because we're blessed to live in San Francisco. We're a little more liberal and safer, but if you understand up in the current times in Minnesota and Seattle, man, they're having some real martial law going on. The people are taking over the blocks, taking over might be safe today or tomorrow, but if things keep going the way they're going, it will end up on your door. You know, and I don't want to be dark or down, but I just want to be real and let you understand. Imagine if instead of getting arrested, I got went down crooked cop. And it wouldn't have been none of this. I wouldn't be able here to hopefully inspire somebody to make some change, to sign a petition, to donate to CCSF, to make people aware that we need to keep schools open and not shut them down. We need to shut down some of these crooked officers that's going on. You know what I mean? Let's educate ourselves first and foremost. That's why it's very important that we support schools, because education is the starting point. Then we go to belief, and then we go to action.
Okay, everyone, we're gonna have Fawnee speak right now.
Hi, everybody. I'm Fawnee Evnochides. I'm an ESL teacher, and I fully support the Black Student Union demands. And I also really want to add my voice to the many people talking about the tragedy of the closing of Fort Mason. I've taken many classes at Fort Mason, which have been so valuable, enlightening, and inspiring. And it's just heartbreaking to know that this beautiful historic campus, which has been a cultural gem in San Francisco for decades, is closing, and I hope we can stop that from happening. Across the board, the recent cuts at City College have been devastating. 800 classes have been cut for next semester. These massive layoffs are a devastating blow to our college. In the ESL department, 60% of our part-time non-credit faculty have been laid off. As an ESL teacher, I've taught hundreds of students English so that they can go on to get better jobs, communicate with their children's teachers, and participate in American democracy. Next semester, instead of helping my students learn English so they can improve their lives and contribute to our community, I will be trying to collect unemployment and wondering how to get health benefits. Our colleges train California's workforce and help every student reach their professional and academic goals. 80% of first responders are credentialed at community colleges, and 70% of California's nurses receive their education from our colleges. We can't deny education to the students who will be the backbone of our state's economic recovery. We need to fully fund community colleges to help in retraining and restarting our economy. And beyond the critical role that City College plays in restarting our economy, we also need to be fully funded so our community can thrive through the lifelong learning and enrichment that the college has always provided. We need to call on Mayor Breed and the San Francisco Board of Supervisors. Please establish the Workforce Education and Recovery Fund to protect the essential services provided at City College. This ballot initiative would provide about $20 million to fund our city's college. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Fawnee, for sharing more about the ESL department. I just also want to add that Fawnee has been very instrumental in helping coordinate this event itself by sharing the press release, by just helping myself and asking if there's a way to participate or support. So thank you so much, Fawnee, and for the outreach that you're doing for ESL despite everything that's happening too. We're gonna have Wynd Kaufmyn speak next, and she'll be discussing what's happening with the Affirmative Action Task Force since Patricia's unable to attend. Wynd, are you available to speak?
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes, I could hear you.
Okay, sorry. I couldn't find myself to unmute myself because I'm on speaker view. Anyway, yeah, so I've been working very closely with Dr. Patricia Nunley as part of the Affirmative what just happened? Affirmative Action Task Force of the union, of our faculty union, AFT 2121. And actually the task force came into being a couple, am I okay? Okay, the task force came into being a couple years ago when Yvonne Webb, our first African-American treasurer, joined the leadership team, and she started this task force. And we've been doing a lot of different things. One was to advocate for the administration to hire a full-time faculty for the African American Studies Department. After the sadistic murder of George Floyd, we decided that we needed to to really amp up our efforts. And so we've been meeting with the Board of Trustees, we've been meeting with administration, and they're all paying lip service to our demands. And in fact, I think that some of them are sincerely wanting actions, not just words, to go forward from City College of San Francisco. So at this point, we've actually spoken to most of the trustees and the administration, and we've gotten some commitments, which I hope they will codify in the next Board of Trustees meeting. We sent the trustees a draft resolution that we suggested that they pass, and the draft resolution outlines many of the demands of the Black Student Union. What we consider one of the most important ones is hiring a full-time faculty by spring 2021, so there's a deadline on that. We want them to expedite the hire of a part-timer by fall 2020. We want them to be sure to offer a full palette of courses to meet the community demands, and they need to grow the department and develop new curriculum in support of a degree program. And then, of course, they need to fully support the African American Studies Department Student Resource Center and reinstate the previous African American woman who was the chair, who was duly elected to that position, and she needs to be reinstated. So this won't help people at the rally, but I'm going to put these demands in the chat, or these suggested part of what we want the trustees to pass on Thursday, and here it is. And you know, 2 of the trustees are running in the November election, and we hope that they will be particularly sensitive to these community demands.
Thank you so much, Wynd. So aside from these demands, we're also going to have, my apologies, we're going to have Greg Keech speak, and he is the ESL department chair.
Hi, as you say, I'm Greg Keech, and thank you so much, Ira, for organizing this. It's been a wonderful thing to tune into on Zoom. I'm the chair of the ESL department, otherwise known as the Department of English as a Second Language. I've been a chair for 14 years and was an ESL campus coordinator at the downtown campus for 7.5 years before that. So I've seen City College's steady decline as our nation and state systematically have lost their faith in education as an inherent good, and have increasingly required expensive and complicated accountability measures in return for stingier and ever more earmarked funding. We're here today ultimately because of this broad and destructive abandonment of public education as a common good, shared by all, and available to all with no strings attached. Performance-based funding is only the most recent manifestation of this crisis of our democracy. The ESL department has suffered alongside our colleagues in art, music, older adults, and everything else that does not yield the all-important, quote, completions that performance-based funding is based on. Service to the community is not part of the equation. Make no mistake, the term student-centered funding formula, or SCIF for its acronym, is code for performance-based funding. It's only centered on students who do what they're supposed to do, that is, achieve traditional college completions. And more power to them. We all love to see students achieve certificates, degrees, and transfers. But like many high-minded educational reform, SCIF leaves people who don't fit the traditional definition of college success behind. ESL students are a group that gets left behind all the time. They're immigrants, they do not have political clout, And in fact, they're a much maligned group in our hellishly polarized country. Yet at the same time, immigrants are on the front lines of all kinds of service jobs, exposing themselves to the coronavirus every day. They're hairdressers and nail salon workers, grocery store clerks and stockers, delivery people and taxi drivers, healthcare workers and senior care providers, custodians and sanitary engineers. They're essential, yet they've gotten short shrift at community colleges because they don't produce completions. Never mind that they have their own aspirations and goals and know very well when they've achieved them. They don't need academia to tell them when they are successful, yet the state of California has been trying to do that for a decade, ever since the Student Success Act of 2012. This new performance-based funding formula has induced colleges to abandon these essential immigrant workers. Some of this comes from a much longer-term devaluation of ESL and especially non-credit ESL. The connection between ESL as a feeder to certificate and degree programs is often overlooked, and the connection between ESL and students being able to get jobs and keep jobs even without certificate or degree is ignored. The non-credit ESL program has been cut by 20% for fall 2020, leaving 60 part-time faculty members jobless and depriving thousands of students of their much-needed classes. Equally damaging has been the college's failure to respond to the ESL department's call for a non-credit registration plan during shelter in place. Non-credit ESL students sign up for their next semester's classes in person, on paper, and with their teachers. The ESL department presented administration with a non-credit ESL recovery plan on April 13th. It received no attention, and there's no viable non-credit registration plan in place, although board members, administrators, and especially admissions staff have been working with us to cobble something together after the fact. However, and this is a big however, non-credit ESL was not cut for fiscal reasons. Through careful enrollment management by ESL campus coordinators over the years, and even with declining enrollment as the city has become more and more unaffordable to immigrants, the ESL department maintained one of the highest fiscal productivity rates at the college. This means that our classes were full. Furthermore, the college is in a hold harmless phase due to the state's admission that performance-based funding will cause immediate financial hardship for colleges. The two of these together indicate that there is no fiscal reason for cutting these classes because it isn't fiscal, it's ideological. The siren call of completions, above all else, has led the college to cut programs that do not fit the mold. ESL, older adults, art, music, and other programs of great importance to our community. Yet it is receiving the same funding it received several years ago via the hold harmless provision. So let's not be distracted. Cutting ESL in our sister programs reflects an ideological shift away from the community college model, which serves all, to the junior college model, which acts as a conduit to certificates, degrees, and transfer. The first model is inclusive, the second is not. There's another reason we're here today, the abandonment of community locations. Fort Mason is a vital link to many students, and its future is uncertain at best. The ESL department unreservedly supports the retention of Fort Mason as part of the City College's array of community-centered locations. Community-centered programs. And Fort Mason has a sister location which has also come under threat, the Civic Center campus. Civic Center campus, temporarily located at 1170 Market Street, was threatened with closure in fall 2020 when the college began discussing breaking its lease, while we were in shelter in place during a pandemic. The lease ends in February 2021, so we in the ESL department did not understand the rush, nor the imagined savings in light of potential legal expenses and the cost of decamping, or decampusing if you will, on such short notice. As it is, we're facing transferring both students and teachers in January, and we don't even know if we'll be back in person in the fall. So while it seems the interest in breaking the lease prematurely has faded somewhat, we still have a major problem to manage as this prime location is set for closure. Which brings us to a larger question, 750 Eddy Street. City College owns that historic building. Many meetings and several long years have passed since it was summarily closed in 2015 with no warning to teachers and students. We were told the day before the spring semester began that teachers and students had no place to go. It was a fiasco. But back to the present. If the current location at 1170 Market Street is to be closed as of the spring 2021 semester, what is being done to assure a City College presence in the Tenderloin? As I think about the possibility of a public-private deal with some kind of profit-focused condo or office development, I shudder. This is public land and must stay in public hands. What about a public-public deal? What a wonderful location for a social justice campus. The Tenderloin is a rich tapestry of diverse communities, and a joint effort by City College, the City of San Francisco and its agencies, and community-based organizations could become a vibrant one-stop location and an exciting and innovative social justice collaboration. We need to move beyond statements of support to concrete action. Let's get the 750 Eddy renovation and reopening back on track. Let's show how actively progressive San Francisco can be. Let me close with a return to the ESL department and its fine teachers and its amazing and courageous students. Here's what we need right now, and these are actions, not words. Restore the 60% of campus coordination that was cut in 2019 and which has hobbled our operations at these neighborhood locations. Restore the jobs of the 60 faculty who are facing unemployment in fall 2020. Restore the 20% of non-credit ESL classes that were cut. Ensure in writing that no further cuts to classes will be imposed. And most of all, we need an assurance in writing that non-credit ESL will be held harmless, just as the college is held harmless for fall 2020 enrollment. The college failed to deliver a registration plan, and the ESL department and its students should not be penalized for that failure. So thank you for listening, and thank you again, Ira, for organizing this event and all the other good folks who worked on it, including Fawnee. I think together we can ensure that CCSF remains a community college. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Greg. I was wondering if there's clarification for your first action. You mentioned something along the lines of restore the 60%. Oh, you're muted right now.
I mentioned that I had been a campus coordinator at downtown for 7.5 years. And in fact, in 2019, the college cut, among a lot of other non-instructional, so-called non-instructional positions, 60% of our campus coordination, which means that the folks that made sure that campuses like Civic Center can run smoothly had a huge cut to the number of hours available for them to do their work. And in fact, they're working as volunteers now. They have enough coordination for the first few weeks of the semester, and then they're kind of forced to volunteer their time, as I am right now.
Thank you, Greg. So we'll be talking more about a list of actions that we could do pertaining to all the issues that were addressed right now. But right now, I'm going to have Madeline Mueller talk about the Balboa Reservoir. Madeline, are you ready?
Am I unmuted?
Yeah, you are unmuted.
Okay. Well, I'm hoping that people are aware of the resolution put forth by a group that I somewhat organized called DACA, the Defend City College Alliance Group. And we've made this resolution, we've presented it to the board, and we've made copies out to the Planning Commission and tomorrow to the PUC. And I'd like to just read the preamble and the resolution. It says, the overwhelming support for the recent Prop A, which resulted in 845 million facilities bonds for City College, demonstrates the San Francisco voters desire the development and growth of City College. This includes the entire college. That means the Ocean Campus, the critical and the crucial centers in every major neighborhood, and the sites positioned throughout the city that uniquely serve various San Francisco districts. I mean, we really are one district, and this is not in the preamble, but just as a sidebar, legally in Sacramento, there's the college, which is the Ocean Campus. Everything can be called a campus. And then there are the 9 centers, and we are absolutely webbed together. That's what we are, and it's a very efficient and very excellent way to serve the students of San Francisco. Then back to the preamble, it says the Balboa Reservoir is a critical element for all of us. The plan to privatize it in order to build some 1,100 housing units, mostly at market rate, contradicts and undermines the public interest. Now, the resolution, after many whereases, and they're all quite researched and they have proofs for what what they mean, the resolution for the board is that the DACA urges the Board of Trustees to initiate negotiations towards acquiring the Balboa Reservoir property from the PUC for City College, so that we would have the ability on our own land to join other Bay Area community colleges in legally developing open space, which would cover events, student shows, practices, such, to have employee and possibly student housing, and to fulfill state-required parking mandates. These are all critical elements for CCSF student interests. As a sidebar to this, because people like to say, oh, well, you're against housing, not at all. And we found out from a meeting with the developers about a month ago that they would not, even on City College land, they would not, the Avalon Bay and group, build student housing. They said it would not be profitable for them. Well, that's scandalous. I mean, really. We now just have, it's all profit-based, and that's what's wrong. We need to have, as Greg said, public land and public partnerships, not the for-profit partnerships. Cerritos College down in Southern California has just opened up a homeless student units, many units down there. There are ways of doing public funding situations, but you have to have the land. And even though this developing group says, oh, we'll put 100 and some units, we'll try to have faculty and staff housing in the reservoir, it doesn't work that way. You really, in order to really make that promise happen, the college has to have the land. So we're trying very hard at this point in time to get that across to people, that in order to have true affordable housing, in order to have any kind of student housing, in order to have what's required as a parking, I forget what the language, it was sufficient. And we have the data. Now, there has been, and there will be on the PUC tomorrow, the Public Utilities Committee, probably a just stamp of approval for this private development, which contains huge errors in its EIR, in its environmental impact report. Our group, DACA, has hired a lawyer, a very excellent one. We just came up with the appeal declaration based on these errors in the EIR, and those are have just been signed off into public this last Friday. And I'll get it to as many people as possible now, and we will try to at least, well, hopefully we'll have our legal day in court. And at this point, after the PUC tomorrow, it goes to the Board of Supervisors next month. So I will hope that whoever's listening and however going forward, you'll all join us in a real concerted effort towards the Board of Supervisors to show them that this privatization project, it's not the right time, it's not the right place, it's not the right density, and it's certainly not right for City College. So I look forward to everybody helping us. Thank you very much. And if there are any questions, I'm up for that.
Thank you so much, Madeline. So I'll leave this open right now for questions to Madeline and also questions to Greg, perhaps. I'm still waiting to get back in touch with Jess so we could get the recording from Ferguson as well. So if anybody has any questions, please either unmute yourself and ask through the screen, or even write it in the chat.
Hey, I don't have any questions, but I want to say that those presentations were absolutely wonderful, and I'm happy to be part of this collective, to be here to support you guys. And if you know, whatever I can do to support, please let us know. We're here to happy to help the community.
Thank you.
It's my understanding that tomorrow there's going to be a meeting for the Public Utilities Committee, and there are 2 meetings pertaining to the Balboa Reservoir.
Right. It's category 10 tomorrow. The PUC starts at 1:30, but you have to get your comments, public comments, in today by 5 o'clock.
Can I just add to that?
Yes, please.
Hi. Yeah, so it's a really important meeting that the Public Utilities Commission has tomorrow. I put it up on the Public Lands for Public Good website, so you can find links to the meeting, to the agenda and the meeting. The main thing that they're going to be doing at this meeting tomorrow is declaring the land surplus and approving the developers agreements and approving the the environmental impact report, which actually, and the what am I trying to say? They're basically saying that it's okay that the project can go forward even though there are unmitigated environmental impacts. So it's a very important meeting. I think as many people could comment as possible would be great. We're not going to stop it at this level. Where we're really going to stop it is at the Board of Supervisors. And so we've really got to gear up to start lobbying the Board of Supervisors. But I think that it would be a great first step for people to submit comments by 5 o'clock today to the Public Utilities Commission. Thank you.
Thank you, Wynd. So I'm curious if people have any additional questions regarding what they should put in the public comment. Was there any confusions or points of clarity that they want to ask Madeline or even Wynd?
Okay, I'm not muted. I was gonna ask for clarification of where we submit these public comments. Is it in the emails for public comment? Is it anywhere else?
You know, I'll put that information up on the Public Lands for Public Good website. I think I have all of the contact information except for the Public Utilities Commission. So I'll put that on as soon as we finish here.
Okay, and we'll have access to it?
Yeah, it's just publiclandsforpublicgood.org.
Thank you.
Are there any other additional questions regarding the Balboa Reservoir? Are people interested in submitting public comment by 5 p.m. today?
If I could add something, Mrs. Madeline, whatever you send to the PUC or anything now going forward, always make a copy to individual Board of Trustee members so that they know how much interest there is in this project.
I see. Thank you, Madeline. I also added all the links that were shared through Wynd on the Public Land for Public Goods in the chat. And this will also be added in the link share, the link tree, I'm sorry.
Can I make a comment? This is Rick Baum.
Yes.
So this new guy was just hired at City College as the interim chancellor. He previously took Rocha's place at Pasadena City College, and we're concerned about Black Lives Matter. There's an article, I'll share it with people later, that says under him, 36 new employees were hired and not a single one was African American. At the time, the Black students enrollment represents 6% of the student body. And I guess there's complaints by the NAACP about his practices. And this is the new guy that we now has been hired at City College. I mean, I can read you more from this article if people want to hear more about it, but it's very disturbing to me that this is Rocha's successor. It means the board at Pasadena that hired Rocha. Now we have the same board that hired Rocha at Pasadena. Now our board is hiring his successor. So it's Williams made announcements today about
at this year was between the 20th and the 20th.
Thank you so much, Rick, for sharing more information about the chancellor. We're gonna go back to the Fort Mason live stream. And then I'm hoping towards the end, we talk more about actions and actually actively brainstorm together on what we could do. I know Greg gave a list of actions, and I'm curious to see what we could do to support the ESL department that has helped the students and immigrants so much, especially me coming from immigrant parents. I'm just curious to see ways we could plug in. So I'm gonna focus more on the Fort Mason live stream right now. And Jess, if you could unmute your,
And then on
thank you.
Thursday at the board meeting, they met in private session and agreed on a settlement for him, which was $340,000. And part of that was because in 2018, they said, you know what, he's such a good guy, we're going to extend his contract by 2 years. They didn't tell anybody. They weren't supposed to do it. It was a violation of the law, and no one held them to it. So because of those 2 years extra on his contract, that's why he had a year to be paid off at this time. That's my take. Anyway, I and Wynd Kaufmyn, a colleague in the engineering department, said there's something not right here. Because they were supposed to make their final settlement partly in open session, but they didn't do it. So we filed a month later a notice saying, you did that wrong. What you're supposed to do is do it in open session. Meanwhile, take back that money that you offered him, and if you want to, you can do it right. If you want to insist on offering that money, but also give the public, the students, the faculty, the general public, who are maybe not happy about paying this character, came to $400,000 altogether. So come out on Thursday. It's a virtual meeting, or send a letter to the Board of Trustees, because what they have done is left on the
nerve of that guy.
They passed a response to that, the notice of violation, and what they said was they are planning to re-ratify the resignation agreement, giving him his award, but they have to take public comments. So if you think maybe that's not the best way to spend $400,000, or if you want the board to know that they can't keep skirting public meeting laws, and they have a tendency to do it, but we shouldn't allow it. And they're only going through this because they blamed me and Wynd Kaufmyn. I said, this is really inconvenient. You know, there might be a lawsuit. So we're going to go through this measure. And even though we don't think we did anything wrong, we're still going to humbly apologize. And on Thursday, restate this, give Mark Rocha his money, because we don't want him to be deprived. Do we want Mark Rocha to be deprived?
Yes.
He did a lot of damage at City College. Do we think the Board of Trustees should do the right thing?
Yes.
Yes, we should. Are you going to go out on Thursday? The board meeting is at 4 o'clock. I'm not sure about the time of the public comments, but we should make it robust. We should make them there till midnight, hearing from us about what is wrong, how Mark Rocha was responsible for tremendous cuts, for Salary Gate, for the Midnight Massacre, for an atmosphere of kind of despair when all the cuts we're hearing about today, they're a lot thanks to him. And his policies are being carried on by his acolytes, you know, Tom Bogle and Diana Gonzalez. She's going to go back to her old position, but she was carrying out the same policies. So that's why we've got to have people like Anita Martinez coming in to hold the officials accountable and to represent the voice of the people. So please take one of the yellow resolutions. If you don't have it already, feel free to talk to me about details. Faculty and students are out there. That's the great ones here advocating for all of us. Thank you.
Yeah, Aaliyah.
One more speaker, and then we're going to throw it open to anybody who would like to come. So here is another candidate for our new board.
much for having me here today. My name is Aliachisti, and I am running for City College Board of Trustees. I was born and raised in the city. City College of San Francisco transformed lives. It transformed my family's life. My mom, we grew up in poverty. She took ESL classes at night to learn English so that she could better our lives. My brother was a part-time student. He would take classes in the daytime and work a job at nighttime. We are here talking about access today. This is what this is about. This is access. Fort Mason provides access to these spaces that we feel like we're not a part of. I grew up in D11. I can count the number of times I've been to this part of the city. Fort Mason brings other students and other people to this part. I also want to elevate some of the demands of the Black Student Union. It is unacceptable that they have to demand a space on campus. That is not what City College is about. City College encompasses all of us and so much more, and I am so happy to have listened to all of you and learned from all of you, and I will continue to do that. And I also want to echo Anita Martinez's comments. She has been a part of your community for so long. So thank you. Thank you for having me here and for bringing me into this space and letting me stand in solidarity with you today. Alia Chisti.
Alia has done a lot of work for Free City and stuff like that. So she's not new to City College. She's done a lot of work already for us. And she'd be a great candidate for the board.
How about a song? How about singing together? Come closer so we have more of the chorus. My name is Pat Wynn. I'm in the Labor Studies Department, but of course I'm not anymore. And I conduct the Bay Area Labor Heritage Rock and Solidarity Chorus. This is Helen from the music department as well. Formerly, we're all formerly. We shall not be moved. We shall not be moved, just like a tree that's standing by the water. We shall not be moved. We shall not be moved. We shall not be moved, just like a tree that's standing by the water. We shall not be moved. Art is essential. Art is essential. We shall not be moved. Art is essential. We shall not be moved, just like a tree standing by the water. We shall not be moved. Art is essential. We shall not be moved. Art is essential. We shall not be moved, just like a tree standing by the water. We shall not be moved. Adult learners are essential. We shall not be moved. Adult learners are essential. We shall not be moved, just like a tree standing by the water. We shall not be moved. Thank you. Woo! We shall not be moved. Don't let them run over us.
If there aren't any other people who wish to speak, we're just going to say thank you very much for attending. Spread the word and get in touch with the board members. Thank you.
Woo! Thank you, thank you. Huh?
Okay, everyone, I actually just want to share a testimony shared by Jax Pugliatti, who is a Fort Mason student, and then she took ceramics. She's also part of the CCSF collective, and she's working with us at Poster Syndicate, which has been a strong advocate for City College, and even discussing what's happening with the cuts and offering to do screen printing with students too.
Hi, my name is Jax, and I am a CCSF student. I've been taking classes at CCSF for this is my third semester that we just finished, and mostly I've been taking art classes. Most recently, ceramics class, which is where I made this bowl of fruit and a lot of other things that are all around my apartment. But I just am recording this to say how valuable Fort Mason campus has been for me and for my classes and my fellow students in the last 3 semesters. That space is so unique and wonderful and inspiring, and it's been doing that. It's been functioning as this space for creating for generations, and it's really a valuable space that I think is integral to the continuation and the progression that CCSF should be striving for and is striving for, and the students of CCSF value this space and use this space.
We'll just go back to the presentation, which is, again, the actions and what actions can be taken. I'm hearing that there's a lot of interest in supporting, of course, Fort Mason and also the ESL, but then I want to leave it to the speakers here. So, for instance, Greg and Wynd, along with Madeline, ways that we could plug in to the Balboa Reservoir and also the ESL list of demands too. Because so for Greg, I hear that there are certain demands that are listed, but then I don't know if there's, for instance, petitions that we could sign in or anything of that sort.
There has been a petition, and I thought we were going to upload it, but I kind of lost track of it. I'm sorry. I think that this new list that I presented today is something that we can work on, especially in light of the fact that we now have a new chancellor. And I would like to figure out a way to get to him right away, as I'm sure a lot of other people are doing, but he needs to understand the situation here. And I think that list is a good introduction to what's been going on for the last couple of years.
Thank you, Greg.
And I'm open to any other ideas too.
Okay, perfect. Okay, let me see. I see that Fawnee is sharing some information too in the chat. Fawnee, would you like to share it through the video, or I could also read it out loud too?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, it's just that if we can support, we really need to call on the mayor and the board of supervisors to establish the Workforce Education Recovery Fund. This would bring $20 million to fund City College. We really need to get that money from the city, and if everyone writes to the board of supervisors and the mayor has not been responsive to this, but maybe we can change her mind if she hears from a lot of people. So this could be, this really is something we should all try to do.
Thank you, Fawnee.
Thanks.
So in the chat, I'm going to share a contact list. If you access this Google Doc, it gives you a easy copy and paste for the board of supervisors, for the board of trustees, and also anything related to the Fort Mason, along with the Balboa Reservoir. So I'm just going to do a quick screen share of that right now so people are able to look at it. So you're just able to copy and paste it very easily. And even right now, like, please do take some time to even draft an email and then say your support for the ESL, which Greg thankfully listed out the demands very easily. And then also with the Balboa Reservoir, the link to the resolution is shared. With Fort Mason, absolutely, the resolution is shared too. For Fort Mason, we have until September, which is when they end the lease. And we see that as an opportunity to overturn the decision, but then we find that it'll be great to do that through a united effort where we're also advocating for everything else too, because I find that there's strength in numbers. So this is the information so far. Please do access it and share it. It's also on the link tree right here, where there is, again, easy copy and paste emails, the BSU demands, support for full-time AFAM faculty, the Fort Mason resolution, the Balboa Reservoir resolution, And if there's a resolution that would be drafted for ESL, I would love to include it as well. And I'm just curious to hear, like, what are the next steps moving forward? Are there any other ideas or suggestions people have in terms of how we are working together?
You know, it's Wynd here. I think overall, the real problem is that our Board of Trustees has not been adequately protecting our college on so many fronts. On the Fort Mason front, on the cutting classes front, on the OLAD, you know, cutting that program, and not protecting the college from private developers that are putting up a development that will very adversely affect the college right across the street. So I guess what I'd like to say is that we need to put pressure on our Board of Trustees, especially the two that are running in November, to do what's right by the college. So let's see if we can get some action on any of these things from them on Thursday at their meeting. From the reopening Fort Mason, promising not to give Civic Center to a private developer, promising to want to purchase the land of the Balboa Reservoir at the bargain basement price, which we can do because we've got bond money, all these things. So that was probably a lot, but thank you.
Thank you, Wynd. So I'm hearing that the focus is primarily on the trustees and ways to put pressure. Is there a way that we are coordinating how to do this? And I know this is supposed to be an event focused on the Fort Mason event, but I do, since we have so many people involved in this chat, I'm curious how we're coordinating efforts or even just moving forward with communications among all of us. So I'm open to hearing suggestions. If not,
this is
yes.
Madeline.
Madeline, yes.
I think we also need to note that for years now, the board has been led down many paths by the district lawyer, Steve Bruckman, who is retiring. This might be a great opportunity. He was imposed, first of all, during the takeover, the illegal takeover from the state. And then he managed to get himself a real position at the college. And I say managed, I won't go into the details. But legal advice to this board has been abysmal and counterproductive. So I think we have an opportunity, and that's why and it's just a breaking story, that the legal, now we have a lawyer, we being the DACA group, his name is Stuart Flashman, and he's highly recommended, and what has just come out as a challenge, a legal challenge, I think is something we should look forward, and we may have to augment this kind of effort, and there is this kind of maybe opportunity gap between now and whenever the district hires another lawyer, and I don't think they'll probably do very well at that, but maybe we can influence it. So let's think about the law and lawyering up and look at this as an opportunity perhaps now, because we will not have to deal with the state lawyer, if you will, putting state requirements, the state chancellor's wishes onto our district. That's really what's been happening since 20.
Oops. Madeline? So I'm not sure if Madeline is not on the call anymore.
Whoops.
Or
yes,
okay,
yes,
I'm able to hear you now. Okay, great.
Okay. Was I cut off in the middle of all that?
A bit, yes, you were. I do want to clarify whether or not this legal action, is it only for the Balboa Reservoir, or are you saying just...
Right. Yeah, right now the opportunity, the legal opportunity, there's a thing, and it's even at the end of the agenda for the PUC, that when there are challenges to the EIR, there's this channel of challenge, and that's what just made it and is official now as of last Friday, a couple of days ago, and we'll get the publicity out. But that gives us our initial wedge, and it has to be dealt with according to narrow definition of a CEQA, an environmental impact sorts of situations. So that's what we could get right now. But it may, with the gap of a lawyer at the district level, we may be able now to augment that kind of approach before we get to meet with the Board of Soups a month from now. And besides this very legal or narrow channel, maybe we can get a whole bunch of other issues before the Board of Soups on behalf of City College, legal issues.
Okay, I see. Because I know the OLAD students are interested in pursuing that too.
Exactly.
So it sounds like maybe will it be helpful if there is a meeting discussing legal action that could be pursued as one opportunity to see how we're addressing the trustees?
Right, for everybody.
Yeah.
And our lawyer, who's specifically expert in this area of EIRs, Stuart Flashman, he's well connected, I think, to other kinds of good lawyers that might help us on this.
I see. Are you having another meeting through DACA, through Zoom, where people are able to go and sort of discuss more about the different legal actions that could be united in addressing what's happening at City College?
Yes, yes, that's what we're on the cusp of.
Okay, I see. So Madeline is the person to go to when it comes to how we're coordinating a legal action. So that's one thing that we could do to sort of change the dynamic of what's happening at City College. I also see that I think there's a reporter, Daniel Montes from Bay City News. I want to know if you have any questions that you want to ask various speakers. You have, I'm unsure if you were able to attend the full Zoom meeting, but then there are people talking on behalf of Fort Mason, on behalf of ESL, along with the Affirmative Action Task Force and the Balboa Reservoir, which you just heard about. So Daniel, if you're curious to ask any questions, no questions at the moment, I see. Thank you. All right, so it seems like we're to a close of this event. I do want to end it with reading a poem altogether. This poem was made by Brooke B, who's also a collective member. And then she wrote this poem to advocate for Fort Mason, but then also for a Civic Center too. So I was asked by Wynd to summarize the next steps. So it sounds like it would be coordinating efforts all together through a separate online meeting. And then one way to do that is through legal action, as Madeline suggested. Because it's not only talking about Balboa Reservoir, but see all the different parts of City College are having issues such as OLAD and potentially maybe ESL. And Greg also mentioned that there is a upcoming, there might be a petition that will be circulated as another way to do actions. And again, it's writing the public comment to the board of trustees on Thursday, if not attending the meeting, along with writing emails to the Public Utilities Committee. And that would be shared through the Public Lands for Public Goods website, and also through that link tree, which consolidates all the different links.
You know, I'll put that list out to the ESL department listservs and any other ways that we can.
Perfect, thank you. So I'm just gonna screen share to the poem right now. And I'm hoping that we take turns reading different lines, and I have it up here. So it's called Openness. Can someone read the first line, please? As a way to close out this event. Are people able to see?
Make it bigger.
Let's see.
If you go to slideshow and try to, maybe that would help. Oh, okay, that's
better. Okay.
Yeah, I guess I'll start as long as I'm talking.
Thank you.
OPENNESS. Of all joy, it is when we are fueled within, we ignite each other.
Processes of our own requires all parts of ourself.
Entirety of action as time progresses, as we grow.
Now, more than ever, a fire seems to slowly burn.
These are people of togetherness, ignition throughout all seasons.
Every path alongside creativity has revealed itself.
Share, choose to reflect and remember as spring rain urges blooms.
Sometimes we encounter puzzles, pieces of summer approach, a sun rising and setting with heart and art. Heart. Lovely, lovely.
Thank you. So Brooke B is also part of Poetry for the People, which is a class at City College along with the club. And I just wanted to end this because when it's talking about closures, And then it's discussing also openness, and it seems organically towards the end, we discussed ways that we could work together, right? And I really appreciate everyone for attending. And if there are any other comments, please do share any, but if not, we're gonna sort of put this to a close, but hopefully meet each other again to discuss what could happen at City College and how we could build community from then on. Okay. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care, everyone.